Now, Omar Rahman is a fellow at the Middle East Council on Global Affairs. He joins us from Washington, D.C. Omar, you were watching that. Once again, Israel doesn't even get a slap on the wrist. The Americans backing it completely.
Yeah, frankly, I found today's actions in the Security Council disappointing. I mean, the attack was named and condemned, but the attacker was not named. It's much like what we're seeing in the press over the past 2 years in Gaza. You know, somebody bombs a hospital and kills 50 Palestinians, but that person is never named. And this is, indicative of the larger failing of the international community to hold Israel accountable. And it is that impunity that has emboldened Israel to go further and further and further, crossing every possible red line, breaking every possible law, to the point where now it's, not only carrying out this genocide in Gaza, it's not attacking 5-6 countries in the region, and now isn't attacking an American ally and the mediator that is hosting the ceasefire negotiations, essentially on behalf of Israel, as well as Hamas and the international community, but on behalf of Israel as well, to get their hostages returned from Gaza. So it's unbelievable what Israel is doing, and the failure of the international community to really hold Israel accountable. I think this is one more failing in that sense.
But Omar, this is much more tougher than that, because Israel keeps insisting that these are Hamas terrorists, but they are not that. This attack would be like if the British attacked Sinn Féin representatives, the Irish representatives in Washington, D.C., whilst they were negotiating the Good Friday Agreement. This was an attack on not just Qatar, but America's diplomatic strategies as well.
Certainly. I mean, for what we've been told, these Hamas leaders were in this room to discuss a ceasefire proposal from the United States. So this was part of a negotiation process that the Qataris were mediating, and these leaders were there to essentially sign off on a ceasefire agreement, one that Israel itself has set the terms for. And Hamas has come a long way, especially under recent pressure from Qatar and others, to come to terms on this agreement. So they were there to sign a ceasefire accord, and Israel set out to sabotage that by killing them. And we've seen that pattern repeated over and over again. Israel has killed multiple negotiators, including from Hamas, but also the lead negotiator for Iran in the nuclear negotiations. That was one on the very first day. That was who they targeted and killed while the Americans were negotiating with Iran over its nuclear program. So this is part of a pattern of behavior by Israel to sabotage any efforts to end war, as Netanyahu hopes to perpetuate this for the time being, or perhaps indefinitely, while he evades his political reckoning within Israel, and while he reshapes both what's happening on the ground in Palestine and also in the larger region. I think Israel has now gone from the point of seeking deterrence after October 7th, a restoration of that deterrence through brutal, cruel, overwhelming force, to now seeking domination in the region, hegemony. And anybody who raises their fist or even looks at Israel crosswise is going to be attacked. And we're seeing that in the statements of Netanyahu and the statements of other Israeli leaders, completely unrepentant after what's happened. They're saying, we'll do it again. If the opportunity presents itself in Qatar, it doesn't matter. That was echoed by the ambassador in the Security Council today, who said it doesn't matter if it's in Gaza, it doesn't matter if it's in Tehran or in Doha. If we want to go after these people, we'll continue to go after them. So completely unrepentant and, describing what they're going to do and their violations of international law.
But not just unrepentant. Benjamin Netanyahu said that he is going to go after Hamas leaders wherever they are. And if Qatar, and he singled Qatar out and said that if Qatar can't deal with them, then Israel will. That's effectively a threat, another threat against Qatar. Now, there is a meeting that's going to take place over the weekend. There's going to be a joint effort to try and come up with some sort of strategy where everybody is on the same page, coming from the Arab and the Islamic countries. Is that the best way forward when it comes to dealing with Israel? Is it this idea that you've got to do something that is joint because you can't do it singly, and you certainly can't do it where America and Israel are lockstep together with each other?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's long overdue, given we're 2 years into a genocide, but better late than never. And if this is the catalyst for some kind of action and collective action by the Arab world to safeguard the region from the kind of instability that Israel is sowing. Again, it is this impunity that Israel has that is emboldening it to take this type of action, to see the opportunity that it can sort of dominate the region and that it can attack anyone, anywhere, for whatever it wants to do on any pretext and on any pretense, it will do that. And so that's, I think, unless the region steps up and confronts that, then the Israelis will continue to pursue it. And they feel like they can, that they have the American backing, they have the weaponry, they have the military force, and so they can take that fight to anybody who defies them. And I think another alarming thing for the region is that the terms of what Israel considers an adversary or challenge to that hegemony are growing. Qatar is not an enemy of Israel. It's a neutral party. It's a mediator. It's an ally of the United States, a major non-NATO ally, and it's hosting. It hosts Israeli representatives when they come to negotiate in this negotiation process. So Israel, feels it can attack anybody. It doesn't matter who they are. Maybe one day from now it'll be Saudi Arabia because it won't join the Abraham Accords. Maybe that will be the challenge that Israel sees. So unless some type of action is taken sooner than later, now it is imperative, I think, that threat will only grow to the region.
I'm glad you brought up the Abraham Accords. It was going to be my next question. This is one thing that can be done very quickly. The countries that signed the Abraham Accords, effectively establishing diplomatic relations with Israel when they weren't there in the first place, the UAE, for example, Saudi Arabia, thinking about it before the events of October the 7th. This is something that the Arab world can do very quickly. Is that likely to come quickly, do you think?
I mean, yes, when I was asked immediately after Israel's attack on Tuesday, what should be done, I mean, that's, I felt that Qatar will try to rally its friends, both and its neighbors in the GCC, who share its own security concerns and have rallied around it after this attack, and also the broader Arab world, but to come together with those partners and demand some type of action to confront the Israelis and to put some type of cost on Israeli behavior. And that's one thing that, they hopefully are able to do, which is to persuade the UAE and Bahrain to take that type of action, to suspend, at the very least, relations with the Israelis. And I've heard and I read reporting today that request has been made, or some request similar to that. And so we'll see what ultimately happens here. But I think all the Gulf states are growing in their alarm at what the Israelis are doing all across the region, be it Yemen, in Tunisia, in Syria, Lebanon, elsewhere, and obviously in Gaza and Palestine. So I think they're really all waking up to what's happening. Whether they go that far and cut those relations, and again, we're 2 years into a genocide in the UAE and Bahrain, have not done the slightest bit to cut ties with the Israelis, nor have Jordan or Egypt, for that matter. So we're in this position where, I'm not sure how far these countries will go, but it's certainly a step they could take to send a message to the Israelis that they've gone too far.
Omar Rahman, thank you very much. Always great to get your thoughts.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Don't miss out, get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.